welcome to the Explainer. So be honest with me for a second. Have you ever bought a shiny, beautiful new planner, meticulously filled out the first 3 days in, I don't know, 5 different colored pens, and then completely abandoned it the exact moment your schedule went off the rails? Right? We all have that graveyard of blank planners sitting in our desks. The thing is, if you have an ADHD brain, traditional planning methods can honestly feel like a total trap. So today, we're going to ditch those rigid schedules that completely drain your energy, and we're going to explore a completely different, much healthier approach to tracking habits and finding your focus.
I really want to speak directly to those of you who know exactly what I'm talking about here. There is a very real phenomenon that we can basically call planner guilt. For neurodivergent folks, missing just one single day on a beautifully laid out habit tracker can feel like a massive personal failure. You look at that empty box, the overwhelm sets in, and you just shut the book. But listen to me, the problem absolutely isn't you, and it isn't a lack of drive. The problem is that the system you're using was fundamentally designed for an entirely different kind of brain.
And that brings us to the core material for today's Explainer, the Focus and Flourish Planner. Now, while this is specifically titled as a planner for teens with ADHD, the architecture inside it is an absolute masterclass. It's a secret weapon, really, for anyone whose brain runs on dopamine, hyperfocus, and sudden creative leaps, rather than those perfectly linear, hour-by-hour schedules that society loves to push. Okay, let's dive right into this. The entire foundation of this system rests on a super simple but honestly profound idea. This is built for ADHD brains, not against them. Think about how liberating that actually is. ADHD isn't some flaw you have to fix. It's just a different wiring of attention, energy, and motivation. Sure, you might struggle with estimating exactly how long tasks will take, or maybe starting something when your board feels physically impossible. But you also have incredible superpowers, like spotting details others completely miss or problem-solving in incredibly surprising, out-of-the-box ways. This system, it works with your natural wiring instead of forcing you to mask it. But to make this work, we really have to adopt a major mindset shift right out of the gate. Missing days isn't failure. In this system, we are explicitly redefining what an empty box actually means. It does not mean you ruined your streak. It does not mean you should throw the planner in the trash. It just means life happened. The only rule? Just open the planner again when you remember. No apologies necessary, period.
Which brings us to their start small philosophy. When you're staring at an entire week's worth of goals, it's just so easy to freeze up, right? The rule here is incredibly forgiving. Filling in just one single page today counts as a massive win. You do not have to do every page every day. In fact, if a particular section feels useless or overwhelming to you right now, you are actively encouraged to just ignore it. Think about the emotional relief in that. You are completely in the driver's seat.
But before we even get to tracking those habits, we absolutely have to talk about the noise. If you have an ADHD brain, your head can get incredibly loud with competing thoughts, random tasks, and anxieties. That's why the vital first step here is the brain dump. Whether it's messy scribbles, incomplete sentences, or a giant bulleted list of everything you're stressed about, just get it all out of your head and onto paper before you even attempt to plan or sort it. Clearing that noise is an absolute prerequisite to finding your focus. All right, so once the noise is cleared out, we can finally look at the practical mechanics of the weekly habit trackers. Now, what's really interesting here is how that forgiving design philosophy we just talked about totally changes the way we look at a week. This isn't about perfectly optimizing 168 hours of your life. It's simply about gentle accountability. When you're looking at your weekly grid, I want you to constantly remind yourself that those empty boxes are not demerits. They're simply data. Let's say you only managed to drink enough water on Tuesday and Thursday. Okay, that's just information telling you how your week went. It's absolutely not a grade on work character. It's just a snapshot of where your energy levels were at during that specific week. The actual routine for the weekly schedule is beautifully stripped down. You start by picking just your top 3 priorities for the week. Seriously, no more than 3. Then you simply tick your habit boxes as you go. And finally, at the end of the week, there's a space to just note how this week felt. Notice that? You don't grade your productivity. You just check in with your energy. It's gentle, it's forgiving, and it keeps you moving forward without piling on the pressure. Now, once you're comfortable with that weekly flow, the system offers a really cool way to scale up to the next level. The 30-day challenge. I know, usually the phrase 30-day challenge is a literal recipe for neurodivergent burnout. It sounds exhausting just saying it out loud. But here, it's specifically designed to be a highly focused, extremely low-pressure tool. Because the entire secret to this 30-day challenge comes down to a single number: 1. The strict rule of this challenge is that it is about one habit, 1 month, 1 box at a time. We are not revamping your entire life overnight. You aren't suddenly waking up at 5 a.m., running a marathon, and learning a new language all at the same time. Just one thing. And at the end of that 30 days, the reflection prompts are just brilliant. Instead of giving yourself a pass or fail grade, it asks 2 simple things: what worked and what got in the way. This naturally encourages learning and curiosity rather than guilt. Think about that for a second. If you missed 10 days, what actually got in the way? Was it a dip in your energy? Was the habit just too big to start with? You essentially get to act like a scientist studying your own brain rather than acting like a harsh critic.
Let's play out a quick mini scenario. Let's say you're on day 4 of tracking your new habit, and suddenly everything just feels like too much. You're overwhelmed, the plan is falling apart, and you just want to quit. Because this system knows that moment is coming, it's honestly not a matter of if, it's when. The planner actually includes a coping toolkit for exactly this moment. You can hit reset on your nervous system using box breathing, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, or maybe the 5-4-3-2-1 sensory grounding technique, or sometimes just shaking it out and moving your body for 60 seconds. You use a reset, you calm down, and you just start again.
And this brilliantly illustrates why this specific method of tracking actually sticks. We have to pivot for a second to the actual biology of an ADHD brain. You don't just want rewards. Your brain physically requires dopamine to bridge that gap between knowing what you need to do and actually doing it. That's not a character flaw, my friends. It's literal neuroscience.
If we contrast traditional planning with this system, the difference is honestly stark. Rigid schedules fight the ADHD brain. They rely on an internal supply of steady executive function that simply might not be there on a random Tuesday morning. Dopamine rewards, on the other hand, act as fuel. This is exactly why you should never feel guilty about needing a reward system. You are literally providing the external fuel your brain needs to initiate the very next task.
Focus and Flourish builds us right in with a super fun point system. A small win is worth 5 points. This translates to a 5 to 10 minute reward, just a quick burst of joy. Maybe that's a completely guilt-free 10-minute scrolling TikTok. A medium win is 20 points, which buys you 30 to 60 minutes of real time off, a genuine treat. And a big win is 50 points, which you can cash in for something you really, really want. A big win might be finally buying that video game you've been eyeing or going out for a nice dinner. Those small daily wins literally fuel the much bigger achievements. So, as we bring this all together, the overarching theme of this explainer, and really of this entire approach to habit tracking, boils down to 3 words: progress, not perfection. Remember that graveyard of rigid, completely abandoned planners we talked about at the very beginning? You are finally leaving that behind. Instead, you're building a routine that bends and flexes with your natural energy, rather than snapping in half the second you have a low-energy day.
I want you to really internalize this core message. Every page you filled in, every page you actively skipped, every single reset, and every restart, all of it counts. This isn't just a tracking tool. It is a tool for self-discovery. You are learning what helps you focus, what derails you, and how to gently guide yourself back on track without carrying around that heavy baggage of shame. So, I leave you with this final provocative thought. If we completely remove the fear of messing up the streak, if missing a day genuinely isn't a failure anymore, what is that one habit you will start tracking today? Take a second to really think about it. Pick just one, start small, and let's get to work. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.